Okay, you guys, in this video, I'm going to go over pricing, what you may expect to pay to have either of the two Gutterglove products installed on your home by me, Eve's Trough. Alrighty. I know it's what you're all wondering. A, does the product work? B, how much does it cost? So, without further ado, I'm going to just dive right into that. First things first, Gutterglove does make two products, and I do install them both. And I'm going to kind of go over what they each cost to have installed. And it does kind of take a long time to go through all the rest of the information, some factors that play a role into the estimates, why it costs, what it does cost. So it does take a good 10 minutes to kind of go over all that. I know you guys are busy and you're really just wondering, just tell us how much it costs. So I am going to hit you with that pretty much right away and give you that information, hopefully within the first 2 minutes of the video. And then if you like, I do encourage you to hang around and kind of learn some of the other things that play a role into the pricing. Okay, so let's dive into it. Alrighty, so first on the list, Gutterglove Pro. That is this one here. This is the bee's knees, the mega, the tank of all gutter guards. It's got the extra beefy aluminum frame. This guard costs $10 a foot for me to get my hands on it. Ships from the West Coast. It's made of a lot of high quality materials and it's very heavy. Ships on an 18-wheeler. So it does cost quite a bit just for me to get my hands on it. I do install it at $18 to $24 a foot. So let's say you have 100 feet. Generally people pay $1,800, sometimes $2,200 to have 100 feet of Gutterglove Pro installed. Let's say you have 200 feet. Generally there people are paying about $3,800 to $4,200, somewhere in that ballpark. And just so you guys know, this is 24 a foot is comparable to all the other products on the market. Generally, leaf filter is even more than that, but Leaf Guard and Water Louve and Gutter Helmet and Master Shield, all the other products, generally they're installing at about 24 to 28 a foot. Leaf filter's like 38, 40 something a foot. They're just crazy. I mean, my goodness. Just so you guys know, that is very comparable, but this is like the bee's knees. Just on material alone, it's very expensive. So that gives you an idea what you may pay if you want Gutterglove Pro. Next, moving on to Leaf Blaster Pro. That's this guy here. May not look much on the camera compared to the Gutterglove Pro, but believe you me, this baby is beautiful, it's wonderful. It's got the same stainless steel mesh, aluminum cast frame, there's no plastic. This product's not gonna fall apart or anything like that over time. Chances are Leaf Blaster Pro is what I'm going to recommend to you guys. For the area that I install in, which is southern Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia area, for the climate that we have, Leaf Blaster Pro works out perfect. Generally the Gutterglove Pro with that extra framing, really that works better. It's worth the extra money if you live somewhere like Buffalo, New York, where it snows like 6 feet a week, every week. There's always 10 feet of snow sitting on your gutters. Then the Gutterglove Pro would be worth the extra money long term, because nothing's going to phase that gutter guard whatsoever. But here where we live, like I said, southern Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia area where I install, we're only getting like a foot of snow at a time. Sometimes we might get 2, but that's on some crazy winters. There's never generally like 8 feet of snow sitting on your gutters for 6 months out of the year, every year. So as far as that goes, Leaf Blaster Pro works phenomenally for our area, and it's more economical. So, that's pretty cool. Material cost is cheaper, installation cost is cheaper. And like I said, this is what I'm most likely going to be recommending to you. So, it saves you a little bit of money. How cool is that? So first things first, material cost. It's $4 a foot for me to get my hands on that one. Doesn't have all that extra aluminum frame, which saves on material cost. It's not as heavy, which saves on shipping. So yeah, about $4 a foot it costs for me to get it. I install it at 10 to 14 a foot. So to give you an idea, if you have 100 feet of gutters, generally people who have 100 feet spend between $1,000 to $1,400, kind of depending on some variables. And actually, since Leaf Blaster Pro is most likely what I'm going to be recommending to you, it's most likely what you're going to end up going with, I'm going to just run through a quick set of scenarios that I see all the time. So first one's first, 100 feet. See it all the time, do a lot of 100-foot installs. Generally, I'm charging $1,265 for a 100-foot install. Another length of gutter I see all the time, 150 feet. See that quite a bit, do a lot of installs with that. Generally, my 150 feet clients are paying somewhere around $1,800. And that's generally because they have valleys and things like that. We'll go into that later. Another install I see a lot is 200 feet. Generally 200 feet is about 2,000, sometimes 2,400, but generally I try to keep it in the 2,000, 2,200 range for 200 feet. So there you guys go. I mean, point blank, that is the pricing. I want to give you a quick ballpark estimate of what it may cost. That way, it saves you some time. You don't have to schedule an estimate and all this kinds of that and the other before you finally get an idea of what it's going to cost. Like all the other companies, I can promise you I'm the only one who's going to give you an idea of what it's going to cost up front without having to show up to your house, because they like to send a salesman to your house. He's going to wine and dine you and trick you into signing like a $5,000 contract and whatnot. So there we go. Generally, Gutterglove Pro is coming in about 18, 20 foot, 24 foot. Leaf Blaster Pro I install for about 10 to 14 a foot. Almost all the time, I've never installed this for over 2,800 bucks. Except for one house, actually. He had 650 feet of gutters, and I ended up charging him about 4,800 bucks, which was really cheap. I kind of mismeasured how much he had, but altogether, so that was $4,800 for 650 feet. Alrighty, so next thing, I just kind of want to go into some factors that play a role into an estimate. Why, say, your house might be cheaper than your neighbors, or why maybe your house is more expensive to have done than your neighbors. First things first, do you already have a guard installed on your gutters that I'm going to need to uninstall? I do uninstall gutter guards and haul them away, dispose of them. They're not going to be left in your yard. You're not going to have to put them out the front for the trash to take. Some gutter guards and uninstall a little easier than others. So depending on what you may already have there and how long and how much effort is going to be involved in uninstalling it, that can play a role into your estimate. Another thing is the condition of your gutters. First things first, what's the condition like in general? Am I going to need to take a couple hours kind of realigning them, resealing them, all kinds of stuff like that, kind of banging them back into shape, things like that. So sometimes that can take quite a bit. So if your gutters are in really, really bad shape, that may impact the estimate a little bit for you. And real quick before I move on to the next one, people always ask, do I need to get new gutters? Almost never have I been in a situation where the homeowner needs to get new gutters. Generally, your gutters are in good enough shape that they can be, resealed, realigned, hangers added if needed, things like that, and they'll be working just fine. I slap my guard on there, you're good to go for life. So chances are, like I said, 99% of the time, you don't need new gutters. I've only ran into it one house so far where I recommended, hey, you're gonna want new gutters. Your gutters are like just way old school, they're falling apart. There's really nothing I could do to make them good enough again that I would trust, putting a guard on and walking away. Okay, the next thing would be hangers. Is your gutters gonna need hangers added? Basically what that means is the original way of attaching gutters to a home, and even though it's an old school way, some companies still do this, but it's just a terrible way of attaching gutters to a home. It's outdated, it doesn't stand up to time. It's those gutter nails, they'll pull out of your fascia and down goes your gutter. So if your gutters are not already hung up with hangers, I do add hangers. They're like $1.50, $2 a pop. Generally, we need like at least 50 on average for a home. So that can impact the cost. I don't charge you extra to install them. It's just an extra material cost that comes into play. So hangers is another thing that can impact the estimate cost. Another thing is, how much of your gutters need cleaned? What's the situation like with that? Do you have 200 feet of gutters that are all 200 feet filled to the brim, growing a garden? That's hours of gutter cleaning just before we can even get going with the install and, maybe doing some other things with your gutters before we install it. Or do you only have, out of 200 feet, is it just 20 feet that are growing a garden and actually need cleaned out? And the rest is just a little bit of debris, not too bad. So that does play a role. That's a lot of time sometimes having to clean people's gutters first. So that can play an impact into the estimate. Finally, inside corners. Basically what an inside corner is a valley. It's an area where your gutters meet at a 90 degrees. And inside corners kind of drop a lot of variables. First things first, we're most likely going to be putting a higher flow mesh in that area. Are we going to need diverters? Are we going to want to add splash guards maybe? The splash guards will be color matched to your gutters. And also just, as far as just a straight shot of gutter, that's a pretty easy install. But when we come into trying to match the 90 degrees, depending on gutter pitch and roofs and things like that, it can take me a little bit to really, really get a good, nice seal on those 90 degree meeting areas. So depending on how many of these you have, they're very timely to do on the install. So that can kind of play a role into the estimate. And as well as end caps, where your gutter ends. We're going to put some aluminum, once again color matched to your gutters, and that aluminum we're going to bend it and do some 90-degree corners on that, and it's going to fold into your gutter, and that's what's going to seal your guard and your gutter together to where bees and mosquitoes and things like that can't get into your gutters from anywhere. So sometimes those take a little bit of time to do, so that's another thing that can play a role into your estimate there. Okay. Alrighty, so now that you have an idea of what they each may cost you, some factors that play a role into the estimate, now I just want to kind of give you guys an idea of like why I charge what I charge. Even though I am the cheapest in the industry as far as I can tell, you know, some people may think like, oh wow, $2,000, that's kind of a large investment. Like, why is he charging that? Is he taking us to the bank? I can promise you no, that is not the case. Like I said, I'm actually the cheapest one in the industry. Almost everybody out there is installing at least $24 a foot and over, and their products are terrible. They're selling you plastic or some crap design that doesn't work. So, you know, these two guards both work very, very well and long term. They're not going to fall apart on you. They don't have any design flaws that's going to, you know, stick you in the long run. So, you know, for 10 to 14 a foot, that's almost half of what everybody else is going to charge you. So I am the cheapest. So I do kind of want to let you know that up front. I mean, I could charge you $4,000 like everybody else and still sleep good at night, because I know at least that's comparative to everybody else, and my product works. At least I'm not scamming you on, you know, a product that's not going to work. So, you know, first things first, I am the least expensive as far as I can tell. Next thing, you know, this will save you tens of thousands of dollars in the long run. You know, clogged gutters is the worst thing for your house. Seriously. I mean, other than like a Mythbusters episode I saw one time where the hot water heater like exploded and blew the house up, you know, aside from maybe having to worry about that, clogged gutters is probably the thing you need to worry about the most that's going to destroy your home and cause a lot of damage to your home. You know, when your gutters get clogged, it starts to rot out your fascia, you get mold in your ceilings, it starts to rot your ceilings, your walls. You run into some structural integrity issues, starting to rot away everything. You run into some foundation problems. It's just flooding your foundation. Your basement's flooded all the time. Your flower beds are destroyed. Not that that really costs you a lot of money, but I mean, it's not pretty. So in the long run, you know, the damage that clogged gutters does cause is in the tens of thousands of dollars. It's very serious. So let's say it does cost you $1,500 to have Leaf Blaster Pro put on your house. You know, that's a one-time investment, and now you're set for life. You know, but when I'm done with your gutters, you are set for life. I can promise you that. And so $1,500, you're good. You know, you're no longer gonna have to worry about your roof rotting and your foundation, you know, having issues and things like that. So it's a one-time investment that's relatively cheap in comparison to how much it may cost you in the long run if you don't take care of your gutters. Okay. Next thing that kind of plays into the pricing is it is a risky and dangerous job. I mean, I do spend all day up on top of a ladder, on a roof, what have you. And even though I haven't had any problems yet, I've been climbing ladders for 8 years, knock on wood. Does seem like everybody I talk to knows someone who has fallen off a ladder and is paralyzed and whatnot. So, you know, even though I'm as safe as I can possibly be, it is risky, it is dangerous. So, you know, that does kind of play a factor into the cost. Mainly, that brings us to our next thing, is business insurance. Being that I do a risky and dangerous job, my business insurance is very expensive, so I do have to afford to be able to pay that. So that is something that kind of, you know, plays a role into the pricing. Next thing you know is I do own a work truck. That work truck requires a monthly payment, monthly insurance, and more or less actually is maintenance on the thing is really expensive because I do service about a 2-hour radius area, a little over 2 hours. I do a lot of driving, put a lot of miles on it, and it does cost a lot of money to kind of keep it running. So that's another thing, you know, that I got to keep up with. That costs me a lot of money. Next is marketing. You know, marketing is very expensive. It costs me a lot of money to be able to send you flyers, advertise on Google and Facebook and things like that. And I have to be able to do it because if I can't get my name out there, then everybody's just going to keep getting scammed by Leaf Filter and Leaf Guard, these companies who pay millions on marketing every year. And since that's the only marketing people see, that's what they think works and that's what's out there. So they buy it, spend $6,000 on Leaf Filter, get scammed, and they're out of their money. So for me, it's really important that I get my name out there as much as possible, as many people can know I exist as possible, and that does cost a lot of money. So that is another thing, you know, that plays into the pricing a little bit. Next, as far as pricing goes, just so you guys know, I do offer 10% discount to veterans, active, retired, to police officers, firefighters, EMS, first responders. You know, I come from a family of veterans and firefighters. I have a lot of respect for what you guys do, and you know, this is a little thank you from me to you guys. So you guys do get 10% discount on installs. And then finally here, I do donate roughly about 10% of my earnings to a couple different charities. First one being St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Next one is 18 South Men, which is a youth center out of Red Lion, Pennsylvania. And then finally, I also donate money to Veterans Helping Hands of York. So there we go. Hope that kind of give you guys an idea of what it may cost, what some factors play into the role. You know, if you're thinking, boy howdy, this is really expensive, hopefully this kind of gives you an understanding as to why it costs what it does cost. But like I said, as far as I can tell, I am the cheapest. All the other companies on the market are just ridiculous. They're just scams. I mean, they're just taking you to the bank. They have to know their product doesn't work, seriously. And then B, the amount of money they're charging, oh my goodness gracious. It's like, how does anybody decide, like, yeah, you know, I think it's a good idea. We'll spend $6,000 on this plastic gutter guard. That's a good idea. We'll do that, you know. So I'm out here to eliminate that. And I do want you guys to know I am going to make another video that does go over all the other products on the market, leaf filter, leaf guard, gutter helmet, everything like that, so you guys can get an idea of what they're charging. And, you know, I think once you compare it to what I'm charging, you'll kind of see, like, this is actually a very, very good value. Okay? So there you go. Just wanted to provide you guys with that. Thank you.